Hello, friends. I'd like to take today to talk about measles, because we are sadly well on our way to making measles endemic again, all across North America, not just in the US. But first, a little history lesson. Measles used to be traditionally a winter disease. Higher cases when kids were in school, lower cases over the summer. Except in 23 and 24, it has moved to an all-year disease, with more cases occurring in the summer and as we reopen schools in late summer, early fall. And as Just Data points out, currently only 9 US states have a high enough vaccination level for kindergartners to reach the threshold of herd immunity. And as you can see, that is way too many states that fall below that threshold. And dropping. Those unvaccinated populations also tend to be geographically clustered within a state. And this is what the current measles outbreak in the US looks like today. And that's why measles is getting worse. So far in 2025, we have 14 outbreaks in 33 states. As a comparison, 2024 had 16 outbreaks over the entire year. Part of what might be driving that increase in summer transmission, in addition to less vaccinations, is spring break and summer travel. Because as of this article's publication at the end of May, the CDC had 62 reports of measles cases that flew while infectious. And they in turn infected other people, like a flight in Denver that infected 3 other people, including a child under 5 with 1 dose of the MMR vaccine and an unvaccinated adult. Sadly, vaccinated people are also finding themselves in this mix, perhaps due to vaccination waning over time. But I suspect that repeated COVID infections are not helping this, because as someone responding to one of my comments said, we already know that COVID infections can cause dysfunction in our B cells and our T cells. You know, the things that power our immune system, including our memory of things we've previously been vaccinated against. There have also been exposures at Salt Lake City, Calgary International, Washington, D.C.'s airport, Oklahoma City, and Chicago O'Hare. And I have no doubt that we will have more reports by the time we get to the end of the year. Because here's the kicker to measles. In addition to being the most contagious virus known to man, able to infect 90% of the people who are unvaccinated that are exposed for up to 4 hours after exposure, and 1% of the people who are vaccinated. Again, up to 4 hours after exposure. Meaning if someone is in the waiting room for an ER, someone who comes into that room 4 hours later can still be infected by them if they are vulnerable. Which is why an MMR vaccine is important, as is reducing your immune system deregulating infections like COVID. But also, you are likely to infect someone before you even know you are sick, because you're contagious at this point. You don't show symptoms until this point. You continue to be contagious until that point. So from day 3 to 5 through day roughly 25, you're infectious. But it's not until around day 7 that you have any symptoms, which is why places with functioning public health send out notifications of exposure like this, showing large windows of time of exposure, because that person only had to be in there for a couple of minutes, unmasked, to potentially infect people for hours afterward. All of that is to say, wearing a mask is a good idea, because again, the sick person does not have to be in the location for you to get sick. And long periods of exposure, like international flights or cross-country flights, are excellent times to get exposed to measles. So if you've gotten lax about wearing your N95, you should be wearing that again. So far to date in the US, there have been just shy of 1,200 known cases, meaning people who actually got tested. But unlike the lies that RFK Jr. is peddling, that number is an undercount, because it can take weeks for cases to get detected, traced, and clinically confirmed. You only know where you've been, not where you actually are. Wastewater Scan has begun adding measles to their testing, and so far they've detected it in 3 sites that do not have confirmed exposures. Hollywood, Maryland, but with only 1 day of exposure. I guess that's probably someone traveling through, not someone who lives. Sacramento and Stamford, Connecticut. Epidemiologists and infectious disease experts have been running models to see, at our current vaccination rate, what's going to happen. And the answer is that measles is likely to become endemic again, which could result in 51.2 million measles cases over a quarter century, 9.9 million rubella cases, 4.3 million polio cases, 197 diphtheria, 10.3 million hospitalizations across all of those diseases, and 159,200 deaths. That doesn't sound like a world I want to live in. Does it sound like one that you want to live in? But don't you worry, because measles is totally on that list of banned words for funding science. It's being reviewed by AI, not humans, so it's not like we'll get better treatments for these in the future. If you want to learn more about this, please go check out Dr. Hoger's thread. He's done an amazing job of explaining just how difficult it is to put a grant through that can pass through this kind of filter, and the detriment that that's going to have to science in the future. We're not alone in the US in this problem. There have been 2 measles deaths in the US, 1 in Mexico, and 1 in Canada, out of their nearly 3,000 measles cases. That one was a congenital measles case, meaning an unvaccinated pregnant woman contracted measles and passed it to her baby, who was born prematurely and died at birth. Because remember, folks, people who are too young to be vaccinated are also impacted by the lack of vaccination choices made by others. And vaccines are a team fucking sport. We all have to participate in order for them to be effective. Some places with functioning public health are taking that seriously and are responding by holding vaccination clinics and encouraging people to get vaccinated. But it doesn't help that our Director of Health and Human Services believes that vaccines kill people. They don't. Instead, kids who are vaccinated miss out on things like measles, pertussis, diphtheria, TB, tetanus, and rubella. We should not be in a place where provinces like Alberta have the worst number of measles cases since 1986, aka since the widespread use of a 2-dose vaccine. That, in a nutshell, is what anti-vaccine propaganda has done to us, taken us back to a day before we had vaccine. And kids are paying the price of that, including ones that are dying of a preventable illness, because we are choosing not to prevent it. I wish I had better news. It's pretty fucking bleak. Mask up, encourage people to get vaccinated. Check your own titers if you have not done so to make sure that you are still immune. And if you're not able to do that, just ask for a booster. There's no reason not to. Stay safe, avoid infections, measles or otherwise, and I'll see y'all later.